growing up, right? Our age group, you end up seeing, your grandparents or even now your parents struggle with technology.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like we're going to see the age of acceleration. Things are going so fast that it's almost like your friend is going to struggle with technology.
Yeah.
Not just like people who are older and it didn't grow up with it, right? You're going to see people that are going to struggle to kind of adapt. And it's almost like, how do people, really not get left behind, right? And still participate in a society that's going to be, I would imagine, technology rich, you know what I mean? Rather than technology poor in the future. How do people not get left behind,
Well, it's probably in their best interest to get left behind. I mean, I often think I try to reframe in my mind and actually do like kind of the opposite of what I would think. So I was having a discussion recently, and this was in the context of these immersive realities. So, the VR headsets, but also the chips, Neuralink, like chips in the brain. And I'm not necessarily an advocate for any of this. I actually, around this, we were talking about the concept of privilege, socioeconomic privilege, and that the privilege is more access to these technologies. And I actually took a step back and I said, I wonder if, I think the actual privilege is that is not tapping into these things and like farming, truly. And I'm not, I think there will need to be a basic literacy of the way that that world works. And I think in the interim, there's probably going to be a pretty strong delineation between like the plugged in and the unplugged.
Yeah.
And so it's maybe more of a bridge to be built between these two very distinct realities. And I'm not talking about this from like a left behind privilege. It's more like there's probably a abundance existing in both lifestyles. And I myself go between both, like I last year was living off grid in like jungle of Costa Rica, like picking from the trees barefoot and drinking water from a spring. and I'm like, this is, and then like live in New York City.
Yeah.
The most plugged in possible and getting to see all the things like my identity being scanned to go into the Whole Foods and such. And, I think there's beauty to both. I don't think there's like a better or worse. I don't really like to see things in terms of like duality of that respect. But in terms of, the speed of change and even peers not being able to keep up, for sure. I myself, right? And I like, this is my role, my job, my career at this point. I'd say like, I like pretty much feel like I live in the future and just like come back to share stories. And like, there are moments where I'm like, what is happening? Is it, and I think the more that we can just kind of experience and again, share stories, share perspectives. I don't think it's so much now about like hands-on education.